Welcome to the MVP podcast. My name is B-Man. I'm here with Wheezy, Naeem, the Dream, and we've got a special guest today, Inter Milan fan, Sharma. How you doing, man?
Yo, I'm good, guys. How are you guys doing? Been following you guys for a while.
Wicked,
Very good, man.
Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that.
Boys, how are you guys anyway?
Not bad, man. Busy, innit?
Yeah.
Busy. Watching
Do you know,
TV.
do you know what? Yeah. Do you know this little quarantine thing? It made me appreciate teachers. Do you know that?
Because we
having
babied
kids.
it.
Having kids, it makes you appreciate teachers. You know, like literally, where you have to 8 hours straight. Like, it made me appreciate you a lot. So I thought I'd get that in there for you anyway.
Just
show you a bit of love.
remember that for the rest of your life, man. That's all you remember.
Made me appreciate Tory Lanes. Quarantine.
I still not seen that. I see it on everybody's status.
We're gonna
Stay away from it.
We're gonna talk about Italian football, which is something that we haven't really done. To be fair, we don't really venture far outside of England in the first place. I think we're kind of comfortable with our Man Uniteds, Liverpool's, Chelsea, Man Cities and stuff. But I like this. So let me ask you first, where did it all start for you with Inter Milan?
Yeah, so I grew up in Italy, and yeah, that's obviously had to pick a team from there. When I was younger, it was the original Ronaldo, R9. You know, some guys call him Fat Ronaldo, but you know, I know him as R9, the original El Fenomeno. He was the guy that started it all. So yeah, he was the reason. And ever since, yeah, been repping Inter. Even here now that I'm in Leicester in the UK, always trying to convert people. I want to make Inter the second team that people support here in England.
I have a lot of people are convinced that that Ronaldo, and they swear by this, by the way, is that Ronaldo, R9, is the greatest player of all time.
Second.
Some people swear by it. I know some people, not me personally, but some people swear by it. They say if he never got injured, that he would have his case to be the greatest of all times because there was no one that could stop him.
Yeah, I would agree with that because when you watch him play, he had everything. He had, you know, pace, power. He was clinical. He could create. He could header. He was, you know, he just had the whole shebang. And just, yeah, unfortunately, God didn't give him some good knees.
How far off was Adriano? Because I know Adriano didn't have much of a prime, but when he was at his prime, he was unstoppable, just a bit like Ronaldo. How far off was Adriano in your opinion?
Yeah, I think Adriano, after Ronaldo, he was even for Brazilians, when you ask Brazilian fans, he was the one that they thought, you know, he could take over from Ronaldo. So between I would say 2003, 2005, 6, that was Adriano's peak. He had a very short peak, as you said. He announced himself when we signed him. We had a preseason friendly against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, and we brought him on, and he scored a free kick. He just smashed it top corner. That's how he announced himself to the world. And then he just kept on smashing teams left, right, and center. But his dad died when he was in around 2005, I believe. And after that, it was just, you know, he went into depression and he couldn't recover from that. But yeah, that is probably the biggest regret for a lot of Inter fans, not being able to see Adriano at his best for a longer time. But yeah, and that happens with a lot of Brazilians though. It wasn't just Adriano. It seems like they don't have a long peak for some reason.
Wheezy?
Yeah. Now I'll piggyback in off that there. I was gonna say to you, in terms of Inter, you've had some great strikers there. After Ronaldo, obviously, clearly Ronaldo's your favorite player. But after that, who would you say is obviously you've had the likes of Christian Vieri, Recoba, Adriano, and all them guys. Who would you say is the second best striker in terms of that?
I think Zlatan.
I forgot Zlatan off that list.
Yeah, Zlatan came. He kind of changed the game, the way he came. You know, 6'4", 6'5" guy, and what he could do with the ball. And I think when he came to Inter, that's when his peak started. Because when at Juve, he wasn't that much of a goal scorer. He wasn't that decisive. He was still he liked to do skills here and there and be a bit, you know, hot-headed. But when he came to Inter, he started being decisive. And, you know, that's when I started to get into football more and more. And yeah, Zlatan was the man. But obviously, then afterwards, he went to AC Milan.
You know, coming off that comment, though, you know, that's quite common in Italy, isn't it? where you get like you've had the likes of Pirlo that's literally played for everybody. You've got Zlatan that's played for AC Milan, Inter Milan, Ronaldo.
Bonucci,
Yeah, you've had it.
Vieri.
It's quite like you
Yeah.
don't see that in England. Right? What do you think of it in Italy? Why is it so common in Italy?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a question that I get asked quite often. Like, obviously we share stadiums in Italy as well. That's already a weird thing that you don't do in England because they don't own the stadium. So that's already a thing. The rivalries are really strong, but then I don't know. I think it's just there is like, it's more of a professional thing. Like, you like English players, Italian players don't really go abroad that much. So it's like it's either you stay in Italy, so you don't really have that many options. So they just end up, chopping and changing in Italy. And I don't know why. I can't really put a finger down for the reason that is.
I think, you know what? I think it's because Italy's still quite old school. I don't think they've changed much, like from really early days. I think that attributes to the fact that the Italian league hasn't improved as much as it should have over the last maybe 15 years or so. Because like in the early 90s, well, most of the 90s and the early 2000s, Italy was it. Italian football teams were the one, not just your AC Milan, Inter Milan, Juventus. We're talking like the entire league. It was the best league in the world.
Yeah. We used to have like Sampdoria, like we used to have like the likes of like Mancini, like Rijkaard, like they used to go to like mid-table teams.
Yeah. So, but what do you think happened? What do you think happened in the last 15 years where Italian football is not as represented as it used to be?
It's the money, man. That's where the money talks. The money is not. It's not. The viewership is all in England, La Liga, and the Premier League. That's where the money is. That's the product that's been sold. The stadiums. I was saying the teams don't own their own stadiums. Only Juve, Sassuolo, and like a couple of other teams own the actual stadium. Everyone else is council owned, so they have to pay a rent fee to the council every year to rent the stadium. So. So obviously they're not going to make that same amount of income from the gates, and then obviously the TV money is not the same. So yeah, that's a big factor, definitely. And then obviously there's other factors, like obviously like the betting, whatever scandal, the referee scandal, all that kind of stuff that obviously doesn't help the reputation. The racism obviously doesn't help as well. But yeah, definitely the money is the main reason, I think.
Just going off of what B-Man said and what you were saying about the 90s, because in the 90s, AC Milan were the Dons, you had Lazio, Napoli, they were all up there, 80s, 90s, 2000s. Who do you think's fallen off the most from the early 90s, 2000s to now, in your opinion?
It's a hard question because I'm thinking on the spot. I would say I think it has to be like the Milan clubs, probably.
Yeah.
Because
which one? Which one?
Yeah, I think probably it has to be like, even though, I think because Inter recently have been okay, not to our old heights, but still, at a decent level. AC Milan have been like disgraceful.
That's a shot at me, man.
But do you know what's so funny about AC Milan, or I think it might even be both Milan teams, is that every year they end up buying like 8-9 new players every season, and then it's like they're just trying to do a football manager where you just buy a load of players, whichever ones are good, you stick with them, and the really bad ones, you sell them for half the price of what you bought them for. It is the transfer policy, I think, has also got a massive part to play. As a matter of fact, what was that Liverpool player called that Liverpool just got rid of, and then he ended up at AC Milan? The winger.
There was Barini as well. Barini ended up at AC Milan.
Suso was the recent one.
How do these scrubs even get to like a club of the height of like with a history?
Suso was actually like the best player last few years.
What can they do? What can they do in Italy to kind of get themselves back up there, not have like a repetition of Juventus every single year?
Yeah, it's just like you said, like the money, you have to invest it rightly. So you only have a certain amount of money, you have to invest it. I think Lazio, they're one of the best examples. Like this year, they're the ones that are closest to Juve. They're only 1 point behind in the league, and they spend like literally peanuts compared to everyone else. And they've been building up the team slowly every single year. Atalanta, another really good example. They're in the Champions League for the first time this year. They hardly spent any money. Like their team is worth like 1/4 of what Juve's team is worth, and they play probably the best football in Italy. So yeah, it's just about investing in the youth teams and buying, investing in the scouting system, like Atalanta, like Lazio have done. I think that's the way forward, not like AC Milan and Inter have done, where you're just spending money, left, right, and center, buying names that you think are going to help, but in the end, they don't help.
Yeah, I mean, coming off that though. Yeah, sorry, go on. Now, coming off that though, I was going to say, like what you said now, investing in it. What do you think of Conte and his policy? Because it looks like to me, it's just scattergun. He's buying everybody and anybody.
The thing with Conte is like, he seems to have a certain, set of type of player that he wants. And, whether it's like the Ashley Young or the Giroud, like he just has like this, like he wants a striker. He has to be like a big, strong striker that plays back to goal. Winger or wing back, he has to be, someone that can run the 90 minutes. He doesn't really care about, the skill level. He just wants someone that, almost like soldiers, or like Cassano used to say that Conte makes his players play like soldiers, and that's like probably the best description. He needs players that like will listen to him, and he doesn't really care too much if they're like, super talented. He just, like, if you saw the Italy team in the 2016 Euros, that was the worst Italian team I've ever seen in my life. Our midfield was like Giaccherini, Parolo, and up front we had Eder and Pele, Graziano Pele, the guy that played for Southampton.
Yes.
And we got to the quarterfinal stage against, I think we went out against Germany. We beat Belgium, we beat Spain, these, like, he managed to overachieve by average players. So it's hard to argue with him, when he asks for like these weird players, but then at the same time, it's like, there's not much long term. If you bring in Ashley Young, 33, 34 years old, and Victor Moses, it's not really, a long-term plan.
As a country, if you take the Italian league, for example, would you say that the Italian league is, how you might look at, like back in the day, you'd look at Tottenham or you'd look at Southampton as feeder clubs for some of these bigger clubs like Liverpool. Half of Liverpool's squad was Southampton at one point.
Yeah.
Would you say, just as an overall league, maybe take out Juventus, but as an overall league, would you say the Italian league is a feeder league for the big boys in the Premier League and Spain and maybe Germany? Or would you say that's not the case?
I think after like 2010, it definitely became, like, if you remember when PSG first started their project, they bought like half of the Serie A. Like they brought in Ancelotti, they brought in Zlatan and Thiago Silva from AC Milan. They bought Verratti from Pescara. They bought Jeremy Menez, and they probably
Lavezzi, Cavani,
Lavezzi, Pastore. Yeah, so they literally bought half of the Serie A there. Whereas in the Premier League, I don't really see like that many Serie A players coming to the Premier League. I think, when teams buy from the Serie A, they know it's so different from there's such contrasting styles that they kind of, cautious to buy from the Serie A. But yeah, you could probably say that now they're becoming sort of a feeder league. Yeah.
Sharma, can you define that for me? What do you mean by the style of play? What style of play do they have in Italy now? Because I think there's a misunderstanding as to how Italian teams play football.
Yeah, well, I think it's definitely changed now. Like, it's not the stereotypical thing anymore. Like, when you hear people say, putting people behind the ball and that tactical, news, that's still there. That will always be there. That's the Italian way. But a lot of teams, like if you watch Atalanta play, they're one of the most attacking teams that you'll ever see play. They play like a 3-4-3 where they press. Every single man is like pressing man for man, like in the opposition half. Lazio as well, they sit deep and counter attack. So it's just because Italy is like the home of coaches. That, they say like a lot of, the top coaches come from Italy, or, like the Italian coaches is like, used to be considered the top, school of coaching, you could say. So I think that still is there, but, it's developing now with this more progressive style of football. Like, in England, we're seeing teams play out from the back more. That's happening in Italy as well. It didn't used to be the case, but it's definitely the case as well. And now, like, I think this season, the Serie A had, I think on average, on each match, they had more goals in the Premier League this season. So, the stereotype that, the Serie A games are boring or low scoring is definitely not true anymore.
Oh, right. So, yeah, coming away from that, though, like, I just wanted to take you back to the 2010 when you had Jose Mourinho and your Champions League triumph. Obviously, we don't want to keep talking about your demise. Yeah. We don't want to keep talking about the demise of Inter Milan and that. So, coming back to that, though, give me your feelings about that and Jose Mourinho leaving. and the squad that he left and everything. What your thoughts were behind it?
Yeah, man, that was the peak. That was it. Won't get any better than that. You know, winning a treble in that way, in that team. You know, that team was just built for that year. Like, you know, every player in that team was like 29, 30, 31 years old. So it was literally all or nothing in that year. You know, we sold Ibrahimovic that year. It was controversial, like 40 million plus Eto'o. Turned out to be the deal of the century. And yeah, but what a team that was. You know, even the other day I was rewatching the Champions League final. You know, Maicon was like at his absolute peak. Obviously, year after Gareth Bale came along. But yeah, when you watch Maicon play between 2009 and 10, like he was an absolute beast. Cambiasso, Zanetti, you know, like sweeping up. And you had Eto'o and Pandev on, you know, sacrificing themselves on the team for the team. And then you had Schneider and Milito, you know, doing the damage. It was just a sick team, man. Like Samuel, Lucio at the back, obviously the Rocks, really underrated centre backs. I think both of them, they're not mentioned enough. I think in like when you talk about all-time centre backs, especially Lucio, because he's won it all with the Bayern Munich, Brazil, and Inter. And then we got Julio Cesar in goal. Yeah, it was a complete team. And then obviously you said about Jose Mourinho leaving. That left a bitter taste in the mouth because he left the same night that we won the treble. So the night that we won the Champions League, he got into a taxi to go sign for Real Madrid. I don't know if you saw that video of him and Materazzi hugging each other.
Yeah,
and crying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was every Inter fan like crying, like no.
Why did he leave on the same night, Raul? Because I never looked. I know that he did, but I never looked into why, or maybe I forgot. But can you remember why he left on the same night?
I don't know. I think it's got to do with his personality. He's just, you know, I don't know if you've heard that story where he won that Champions League with Porto and he took off the medal straight away and he gave away. He's that type of guy. Like he's you know, once he's accomplished something, he's already onto the next thing.
But that soon, do you think it's a bit disrespectful to the Inter fans and to the Inter family, or do you think it doesn't matter? It's just Jose Mourinho. He's earned that.
Yeah, I mean, at the time it was like, you know, it's like he's earned it. He's like, I think Moratti, the president, pretty much said to him, like, if you win this for us, because Inter, we had like a 60-year drought, I think, since the last time we won it, or 40 years, sorry. So yeah, it was just like, you know, he's done everything that he can. So he only had 2 years then. Yeah, you know, it's hard to say no to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Do you know, I've been to the San Siro before. I went to watch AC Milan against Juventus in like 2012 or 2013.
Oh, really?
Yeah, San Siro is the biggest stadium I've ever been to. It's the loudest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it actually looks like a fortress. It's
old,
really, really old build. But once you're inside,
the way it's built is like it's quite vertical, so it looks like you're on top of the players. So it's very unique the way it's built.
Yeah. Sorry, Naeem, you're going to say something.
No.
No, there was talk of Inter Milan and AC Milan not ground sharing anymore. Is that like come to an end, or is that still going to go ahead? I think they're going their separate ways.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk at the moment because San Siro is very old, and they're worried about like the vibrations. So like, you know, when there's a big crowd, they're worried that it might crumble at some point because obviously it's a very old building. So they're thinking of they're thinking of two options at the moment: either tearing it down and building something on top of it brand new that's shared by AC and Inter, or just them two going separate ways. Or even renovating the San Siro. So they're still discussing it. I don't have an idea what's going to happen, but something needs to be done because it's San Siro can't, you know, take 80,000 people for much longer the way it is.
Just you've probably heard this a lot. You've probably been asked this, or you've probably been listening to this. But what's your thoughts on all the leagues? You know, with the quarantine and everything and the lockdown. Once this all lifts, or even now, what should happen? And give me like the scenario in the Italian league, the Premier League. Like, what do you think should happen, and when should it happen?
Yeah, I think it should be just dusted now, man, because the break has been so long. The players will need like a proper pre-season if they need to get restarted. I think it's just a case of cancelling the season. Sorry, Liverpool fans. Yeah, in Italy they're trying to restart it. So from what I've been reading, in Italy they're trying to restart it. Lazio are very keen to restart it because like they're having best season of their life. It looks like, they could be challenging Juve seriously, so they're really keen to get it restarted. But in Italy, the situation is really bad at the moment, so it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So for me, I think we should just scrap this season and wait till September, October, whatever, whenever it's completely safe to restart, and then restart then. That's my opinion.
Having said that though, like September, October, for me, like from my opinion, like just my aspect of it, I'm with you. I think you should scrap it, because if we're going September, October, we cut into next season. So, like Italy, I think there's only like, is it 6 games left or something like that? There's not a lot of games left. And in England, you've got 9 games left. So, is it worth sacrificing a whole season for like what 7, 8, 9 games at most? I don't think it's feasible. I think it's not even fair either for next season.
I think with the Euros as well, you've got to keep the Euros in mind as well. The Euros are going to be next year.
So, but
wait, the Champions League League as well, in the like Europa League, Champions League,
World Cup qualifiers for 2022.
So wait, are all 3 of you saying that the season should definitely not be restarted and just leave it as it is?
I think I'll go first. I think they should have like an end date when they say, if we can't restart by this day, that's it. Like Rahul said, it's dusted. If we can get some football in by that day, then wicked. Or we can have a plan, then wicked. Because like these guys have said, and all these tournaments, you can't carry on when you've got so much extra fixtures. Like in England, they were saying they'll cancel the Carabao Cup to make space for some of these other things, like the Champions League and the qualifiers and a bit of a break and whatnot. Fair enough. But will other leagues do that? I don't know. Will the English national team be happy with that? Will UEFA, FIFA? The best thing to do is scrap it. One person or 2 people are going to be upset, but the majority are happy.
It's not just 1 or 2 people, though. It's like Weezy said, and I'm spinning it completely different than how you're saying it, Weezy. There really is only 9 games to go. You're talking 4 weeks at most of trying to finish the season that's gone so far. If it gone maybe up to about halfway point, then I think it would be a debate. But if all the leagues are now literally on the verge of finishing, I think that should take precedent before anything else, even if it means shrinking next season, Carabao Cup, FA Cup. I don't know, right? I don't know. I could not come up with the genuine logistics of how this could possibly work. But I think it's really easy for everyone to say, well, let's end it now because, it's running over to next season. But the way that I'm looking at it is there's only 9 games to go. And in Italy, there's 7 games to go. There's teams that genuinely could have achieved something that they've probably not achieved in 20, 30 years. Liverpool hasn't won a title in God knows how long. You've got a challenge going on in the Championship. You've got a challenge in the Bundesliga. You've got a challenge in the Serie A, even in the La Liga. So everything is, for me, it's too close for us to call it.
But then what do you? Yeah, I was gonna say to you, but then okay, so how long do you give it then? Because like Sharma said, you've got to consider preseason. So once these players come back, there's preseason.
I think at the latest, sorry, Weezy, I think at the latest, what they can do is maybe summer, because you have to remember that in 2022 the World Cup is being pushed to later on in the year. So eventually something's going to give anyway when it comes down to time. But I think the latest that they can do is if by the start of next season things are not safe enough to start, that's when I'd say, do you know what? Forget it. Pointless. But if they can't start in August, then I think the first few weeks of August finish off last season and then start the season afresh afterwards.
It's a tough one, man. It's a tough one.
I think it's a tough one. Anyway, guys, I think we're going to have to put a stop to it there. Actually, Sharma, let me ask you one more question. What signings would you love to make? Not obviously out of the realm of impossibility. You can't say Messi. Do you know what I mean? But if you could
we've been linked with Messi, you're saying that. We've been linked with Messi.
if you could sign some players to make this team better that are available to you, who would you get?
I think our priority should be
Lingard.
The wing back. The free transfer. I think our priority is like wing backs at the moment because they're not the quality that we need, especially for a Conte system. So I would like to see top quality wing backs being signed. I quite like Emerson Palmieri, the Chelsea player. I think he'd fit into the Conte system really well. But then obviously the midfield as well. We need that one midfielder that makes us makes the next step, because we need more goals from midfield. And the guy that I want is Milinkovic Savic from Lazio. I think he's like the next big thing. And yeah, he reminds me of a lot of Pogba, but he's really technical. He's like 6'3". He's good on the ball and he scores goals. He's the complete package. And yeah, hopefully we manage to keep Lautaro Martinez, because Barcelona look like they're really interested in him. He's had this breakout season this year, so I think that it's important that we keep Lautaro, especially.
Is it? I know I shouldn't be stretching it out too long. There's so many things that I wanted to ask you, right? Do you know? You just mentioned that you wanted to sign Milinkovic Savic.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of teams in the world that would like to sign him, but don't you think that's one of the issues in Italy as well? Other than players leaving the country, don't you feel like when teams like Atlanta, for example, that have gone to miracle heights, that the likes of Juventus, the likes of Inter, Lazio, Roma come in and then from these smaller teams take their best players and then leave them in a void? Don't you think that that's another issue that's holding Italian football back?
Yeah, but then again, that comes with the money. So like Atalanta now, they've had the best season ever. So now this past year they managed not to sell anyone for the first time. Usually they sell someone every single year, but this year, like Luis Muriel, Ilicic, Zapata, they managed to keep all the main players, because obviously they had the Champions League money coming in. So hopefully, now that they have things like that coming in, it'll help. But yeah, just in the end, the money talks. It's difficult to say no when the money comes in and they look at their balance sheet and this profit coming in.
Yeah, I think.
I was going to ask you, what's your expectations for Inter this year? I mean, finishing third or second or Europa League?
I predicted third position finish, because like I made a video at the start of the season. I wasn't expecting us to challenge for the title. I don't think our team is good enough, and yeah, we're third at the moment. So it looks like I was pretty spot on, but we started off really good, so we kind of dropped off, which was disappointing. But I think third is pretty good, like improving from fourth, which was last season.
What do you make of Lukaku?
I love Lukaku, man. I wanted him. Man United fans, he obviously at Man United he wasn't that good. Obviously, I watched Man United quite a bit. He was quite a bit of he became a meme player, missing sitters, and his touch, obviously. His touch is still, what it is. Yeah. But he's definitely under Conte. Conte wanted him really badly. Like, this guy had a fetish over him. He wanted him at Chelsea. He wanted him at Juve. So yeah, this guy, he wanted Lukaku, and you can see why.
Yeah.
He didn't fit the Man United system. That's all it was.
No.
Yeah. Naeem, do you have anything that you want to ask?
I've got 101 questions, but we'll have to do it we'll have to leave it for a second episode, man. We'll have to come back and leave it for a second episode.
Very are special.
I love it. Anyway, Sharma, it's been an absolute blessing. Thank you so much for coming on, guys. I appreciate you. If you like the video, please like the video, and we're going to be back again soon. So peace.
Take care.